Greetings Petrolads, welcome back to Automation, and today we are doing another review. It is going to be, if I can find it, the W418 made by Cody Caps, and he says he's trying to compete on the European market with this. Also, it looks like a Mercedes, I can tell you that much. Let's go through the details here. It is carbon fiber on the chassis, like a carbon fiber monocoque. That is pretty interesting. We have longitudinal engine placement, double wishbone front suspension, and multi-link rear suspension, and polymer panels. The carbon fiber chassis is, well, we'll see if it pays off. Aesthetically, I think you have to admit the front looks pretty much Mercedes-ish, which is not a bad look, of course, but I'm just saying. It also doesn't really look like 2015. It looks a little bit, well, it looks dated. It looks like from the mid to late 90s. The rear end, kind of early 2000s-ish. I tried to use those straps to create a more unique shape to these taillights, which is nice. It's interesting. But yeah, overall very simplistic and not really 2015 kind of looks, in my opinion. Yep, this is the open beta for you. This happens all the time. But all we were really interested in this tab was this. It is longitudinal all-wheel drive. Okay. It's got an inline-six engine and it's naturally aspirated, so that is not really 2015 style anymore. Like that sort of engine has died out on the like after the mid 2000s or so. Turbos are everywhere. Even big turbocharged inline-sixes still exist, rarely, but usually it's all turbocharged inline-fours. We got aluminium silicone for both the block and the head, and we got 5 valves per cylinder, which is, you know, to be expected, I guess. Well, 5 valves per cylinder is not to be expected, but at least a dual overhead cam with 4 valves per cylinder would be expected, and 5 valves is nothing too out of the ordinary, I guess. Forged internals with low friction cast pistons for good economy. At the bore stroke ratio, it's almost square with a little bit more bore than stroke. We got 47 km profile, relatively low rev limit, 10.0 compression ratio, VVT on all cams, naturally aspirated as we've seen. Then multi-point EFI. That is again something that has died out in Europe about 10 years, if not 15 years ago. Well, 15 years might be a little bit too long, but 10 years ago you could say multi-point has pretty much been died out for. Therefore it is probably not the proper choice for a 2015 car on the European market, I should say. Like all that is relative to other markets. I know that, you know, Dacias are still using multi-point EFI on their models, which, and you know, theoretically Dacia is European as it's made by Renault most of the time. But then again, Dacia is not really, shall we say, a strong competitor for the premium European market, is it? Like I think I've said this before, but on the back of almost every Dacia it says made by Renault, and I don't think that's necessarily a sign for quality, is it? So with the multi-point EFI, it kind of goes into that direction. Only that you'd never find a 3.2 liter N96 in a Dacia, I would assume. And other than the multi-point EFI, which is a pretty interesting choice, this is actually a fairly solid engine. Which you can't always say about Dacia engines, so there's another difference for you. The exhaust tab. Long tubular headers, 2 straight flow mufflers and a high flow freeway cat. Exhaust diameter is big enough. And then there's another thing. The torque curve in itself is not bad, but given the fact that this is for the European market and with power figures like this, you're looking definitely at like BMW, Audi, Mercedes kind of territory, and obviously also with the body style that you chose. Given those circumstances, like those manufacturers use turbocharged engines, and the turbos usually spool up around here between 2000 and 2500 RPM, where they make a lot of torque, then they have a sort of small torque plateau, and then they kind of drop off at the end. So they even though they are turbocharged, they get their torque earlier, and that makes for better fuel economy in the long run. Whereas this engine only makes its peak torque at 3800 RPM, and that, you know, wouldn't be the worst thing in the late 90s, where this sort of engine would work and also this kind of exterior design would work. But in 2015, it doesn't cut the mustard in that regard. Like it's not up to date, if you will, for the European market, at least not for the German premium market, which I think was what you were going for. If not, then please correct me. Let's just go back here to get rid of those pink boxes and whatnot. There we go. So we got a 6-speed double clutch gearbox, which is not very late 90s-ish. It is definitely, well, it's not very 2015-ish either, is it? Because you know, the double clutch is definitely on par with you know, the current standards and whatnot, but usually you have 7 or 8 speeds. I'm just saying, it's an interesting choice, but it's not bad. So second gear goes to just over 100 kilometers an hour. You get an open diff with 50 to 50 power distribution, because remember, we do have all-wheel drive. Then we got 225s up front and on the rear with a little bit of oversteer. Hard long life road tires. I don't quite get it. Why are the tires so narrow, and why do we have hard long life road tires in a car that's this powerful and all-wheel drive? I know that not every half decently powered, if that's even a word, all-wheel drive car is supposed to be fast. I know that, but also the 18-inch rims is kind of an interesting choice again, because it makes it so you don't have very much tire profile left, and that is going to affect the ride comfort negatively. And also, wait, what? What did I just do to make it stop oversteer? I only clicked this once without changing anything. maybe the oversteer thing was just you know, the game loading improperly, like the game loading and stats improperly. That could be the case. So we got carbon ceramic discs up front as well. Like, that is pretty expensive. And then we got vented discs on the rear end. We got no under tray because we don't need it. Not enough cooling airflow. And then we have 5 seats with luxury interior, premium entertainment, and then all driver assists, including launch control. That's also sure. I mean, I have to be fair at this point. Being European, I have sort of an idea of what a European car is like in this segment. Whereas, for example, I don't know much about American luxury cars, which is why I can't build an American luxury car properly, or you know, quote unquote properly in an American's way of seeing it. And therefore I think we have a similar quote unquote problem here, where you build something that you thought was very European, but that is actually in many ways not truly European, if you will, especially in 2015. For example, carbon fiber chassis is something we only put on our high-end supercars, or on our, you know, extremely expensive cars. Carbon ceramic discs is oftentimes only an option and also only available for very sporty cars. Naturally aspirated inline sixes have basically disappeared, especially with multi-point injection. That's not a thing anymore at all. And longitudinal all-wheel drive is oftentimes only an option, and when we use double clutch gearboxes we use 7 or 8 speeds usually. So that is a couple of things that I should point out. And also the reliability should be better than this, which is what we can do with just a few clicks here. There we go, 68.7. Overall, what do I think about this car? Let's put this back here. I think I've explained it pretty well already. I think that what you thought was very European is actually not the way that Europeans build cars currently. In 2015 also the looks are very dated, I have to say this again. And the economy is not good enough. And neither is the reliability, but we can, as we've seen, fix this by just doing that. Drivability, however, drivability is a strong point, 61.0. It is better than on most cars of this segment that I've built. Comfort is decent, it's good. For a big N6 though, with luxury interior, you would expect this to be pretty good though. Safety, wait, we haven't done it over all the safety. I should say, yeah, oh, it's advanced, yeah, so. Keep in mind, we do have a carbon fiber monocoque which grants a great bit of safety, because it is very stiff and very, you know, solid, if you will, while also being very light. And then of course with the advanced safety options and a fair bit of weight, yeah, safety is going to be very high. Total cost, let's look at the markets. What would this car sell for? 86,700. Or if you actually want to make some profit and put plus 10%, it'll be $95,000, which is about on par with a BMW M3. which is, you know, the M3 is pretty much better in almost every way, except for maybe safety, I don't know. And you know, economy is gonna be about as good on the M3 as it is on this car, but keep in mind that the M3 has 431 horsepower, so almost 200 more than this one. And other than that, like, I just don't think this car is worth the price. I really don't think it's worth the money. And if you wanna make it a little bit more quote-unquote reasonable, which is what, you know, Germany's cars usually stand for, just give it an aluminum chassis and get rid of those carbon ceramic brakes, and maybe retune the engine, make it a little bit smaller and turbocharged, because, you know, downsizing is very real currently in Germany or in Europe in general. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, click the like button, it helps out a great deal. Subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.